Hi guys, Olive here. Here today to review To Have and To Hoax by Martha Waters. This book was published in 2020 by Atria Books, which is a division of Simon & Schuster. And the paperback, this is a paperback original, comes in at 368 pages. This is a Regency romance by a debut author. When the book opens, husband and wife pair Violet and James have been estranged for 4 years out of their total 5 years of marriage. They had a very whirlwind romance in the beginning. They met and were engaged on the exact same night, and we're told that they had an extremely happy first year of marriage. But now they're barely speaking to one another, and we as readers don't entirely know why that is when this book opens. The only thing we're told is that they had one extremely bad fight 4 years ago. The 4 years that have passed since that knockdown, drag-out fight that they had have only seemed to calcify their resolve to not make amends with one another. They do not have good things to say about each other, and they spend as much time apart as is humanly possible. It's during one of these times that they're apart that the events of this novel really start to kick off. The first thing that happens is that Violet receives an urgent message from one of James's very best friends, indicating that James had been thrown from his horse and is lying unconscious. Violet races to be by his side at the couple's country estate, possibly indicating there's some feelings there still. But when she runs into James and his whole posse on the road and sees that her husband is totally fine and back on his feet, she is furious. It turns out he had recovered, it's just that no one had bothered to write her and tell her so. In this scene, Violet is spitting venom at James, and he is so confused as to A, why she's there at all, and B, why she's so mad. Here's a hint, James. You scared the crap out of her. The two split on even worse terms than they started, if that's even possible, and Violet later decides that she's going to teach her husband a lesson. She's going to concoct a scheme to make James believe that she's come down with tuberculosis. Then she figures he can know what it's like to fear losing your spouse. This plan begins to go off the rails immediately, and these two, largely in order to avoid having the conversation about what caused their divide in the first place, begin to plan these little deceptions to trick one another, but at the same time, they're both completely on to each other's lies. As all of that is going on, we slowly start to learn more and more about this fight. The fight that broke them up, the fight that still haunts both of them. When you find out what it is and you slowly start to understand how deep the hurt and misunderstanding surrounding this fight were, you will understand why they split up. It is not something frivolous. This all feels very real because of the emotional depth that Waters puts behind these characters. They are not one note. It's not just like Violet is fiery and James is hard-headed. That's a part of who they are, but the legacies of their upbringings have followed them into adulthood, informing their strengths, but also their insecurities, just like real people. And this fight that they had, the bad one, seems to have pushed some very sensitive buttons. I loved the depth that these characters showed, and I specifically really loved the emotional journey that James went on. This wasn't a romance where the man just needed time to realize how much he loved his wife. No, this is about a man realizing that his past emotional wounds may be to a destructive extent controlling his present, and if he doesn't do something about it, his future. The writing in this book is spectacular. Not only do you get all that good character complexity, but the dialogue is sharp and it is witty. It is laugh out loud funny at times, and at the beginning of the book, it really drives home how at each other's throats these two characters were during their estrangement. They don't make just small, nasty comments to one another. Oh no, they go for the jugular. And to me, that just seems like more evidence of how happy these two once were together. Because let me tell you, there's a reason why it's so scary to fall in love. To fall in love with someone means being vulnerable with that person, showing them every part of you, every side of you, the good and the bad. And that's giving that person a tremendous wealth of knowledge about you that they can use against you to hurt you if they choose to. These two know precisely what's going to hurt each other, meaning that they were at one time very vulnerable with one another. And now that they are in this place, they go there. The one main criticism I have of this book actually doubles as even more evidence of just how married these two characters are, because they spend a lot of their time having the same fight over and over again. And while that's highly realistic, because as a married couple, you're going to spend a lot of your time stubbing your toe on that exact same corner before you eventually decide to just move the table, it got a little repetitive to read. But one major strength of this book that I can't not mention is that it had fully formed and interesting side characters, not just yes men and yes women, not just pawns within the two main characters' larger chess game. Characters with real big personalities, characters involved in the main storyline, and characters that have relationships with one another and not just with our two characters of focus. In fact, there's a bet made between two of the side characters, one of Violet's friends and one of James's friends. It's made toward the end of the book, and I have a sneaking suspicion that it's going to be the premise of the next book in the series. Just the fact that I'm beaming even thinking about the next book in the series should probably tell you where I landed on this one. I thought it was incredible. I am slowly making my way into the romance genre, but I can tell you that this is the best romance book I have ever read. I think romance lovers and romance newbies, like myself, would both highly enjoy this one. So those were my thoughts on To Have and To Hoax by Martha Waters. Please let me know if you've read this book, if you've heard of this book, or if you're now interested in this book after seeing my review. You can let me know that or any other more general comments or questions you may have down in the comment section below. But if you'd prefer to find me somewhere other than YouTube, I am on a variety of different places on social media, and the links to all of my profiles will be in the description box below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.